Hey, what's up, everybody? It is week 10, HBCU Game Day. Once again, I am all alone. There is no Symone in the studio, but Symone is virtual, baby. Long hair, don't care, up in Philly for week 10. What's up, Symone?
What's up? You got a lot of couch over there.
I mean, I got a couch over here. I don't have you over here sitting crisscross applesauce with your mix match socks and your tea and your sanitizer and everything that
Still got all that. Still got all that over here. It don't change.
Wilton Jackson in Jackson, Mississippi. For about the third or fourth week in a row, we have got Wilton out of his tie. I think he's just figured the rest of us are not going to be professional here. So,
hey man, I just wanted to be a little bit more relaxed. I want to, join the company.
Simone said, and he popped that button. He's going to be showing chest hair by the Celebration Bowl. All right, guys, I guess we know where to start. Miles, take camera 4. Let's pick on me real quick. My eyesight is getting so bad. Symone, I'm getting the 11:17 printouts for the rundown so I can see. But I can see that North Carolina Central was not able to hold off Delaware State for their homecoming. The big game, we talked about it last week. Guys, what was the difference in that game? The Hornets are for real.
That game was crazy for Delaware State to swarm into Durham on the road in the homecoming environment. I just want to say this. Shout out to all the viewers of our show. I don't know what this show is called, but shout out to our supporters. They were all in the comments under the segment where I was talking about, Delaware State needing to bite down, get this upset. When I tell you there was at least 10 comments under our video last week. Oh, North Carolina Central about to blow the boots off. That Stinger about to get knocked off the Hornets. It's going to be a blowout. Delaware State ain't play nobody. That's what all the comments were saying. So I am just so elated to see Delaware State really showing up in this game. All the noise has been around the running game with James Jones and Marquise Gillis. Obviously, 2-star backs have been the force of this Delaware State offense. But Kaiden Bennett showed up big in that game. 3 touchdown passes, barely any incompletions. I think he only had like 6 incompletions in that game. Just finding all the right guys, getting so many playmakers involved in this game, spreading the ball around, taking what the defense was giving him, over 200 yards in the air. So this Delaware State team, we've been saying they were for real. Now, like I said in my little teaser video, she done changed in the MEAC, baby. She done got shook up. I'm excited. I'm feeling it. And then, too, to see this Delaware State team, great teams. A wise man once said, great teams can win in multiple ways. And we've seen that with Delaware State. They've blown teams out. They have not been blown out. They've won close games. They've won games where they were the front runners and been able to close them out. And then we see in this tight game against North Carolina Central, they win games where they're playing from behind on the road and been able to respond every time they needed to. So they have the elements of a championship team.
And Symone, I don't know what the show is called either. I just say HBCU Game Day. Wilton, your surprise meter for the outcome on Saturday, where did it land? Very surprised, mildly surprised, not surprised at all?
I wouldn't necessarily say super surprised. I would say maybe somewhere between mildly surprised, because I kind of figured to myself that based off how Delaware State played in non-conference play, that they had started to show signs that they were a real team. Now, granted, of course, we all said that you never know, or the games that matter the most are the MEAC games, and so we hadn't seen one. But I think if you start off MEAC play with a win against a North Carolina Central team, a Trey Oliver-led team, a team that everybody was expecting or still simply is expecting to potentially make a berth into the Celebration Bowl, that's a huge win, not only just for the program, but think about, what DeShawn Jackson has been able to do with this program just in year one. I mean, just some of the struggles that they, had coming into the season, him establishing his culture. And I think a lot of people forget that it's hard when you're a first-year coach, establishing a culture within a program, let alone winning, multiple games. And now, not only have you done that, we see that his culture has been established. We see that they've been able to win games. But then you go into MEAC play the very first week and you upset North Carolina Central. a premier program in the MEAC. That says a lot about where this team can go. And to Symone's point, which she just elaborated on so eloquently, is that this team is absolutely for real. The Hornets can go as far as they want to go at this point. I think that as long as they continue to do the things that have gotten them there into getting wins, obviously this game you saw a little bit more balance beyond just their rushing attack. Kaiden Bennett had a strong game. And for those who definitely don't know Najee Lolly, their wide receiver, he had a strong performance, 3 touchdowns, 124 receiving yards. Of course, Marquise Gillis did his thing on the ground. So this is a team that is not going to catch anybody flying on. They're not going to be flying under the radar too much longer. So this is a team that definitely can show and has shown that they are for real.
Symone, some people in the comments, you talked about the comments, said, Delaware State hadn't played anybody. Look, they played a lot of teams from the Northeast that maybe we weren't intimately familiar with. But now that they did play somebody, is there any doubt left about this team and a possible is still early, getting late, but it's still early, possible shot at the Celebration Bowl berth?
I hope there's no doubt. There shouldn't have been any doubt going into this game because every week we've seen this Delaware State team be consistent, show a lot of promise. Going back to week 1, we talked on this show when they played against University of Delaware, a powerhouse in their conference. Week 1, with a new head coach, with a new team, a new roster. We talked about it on the show. The team looked for real. They didn't get the win, but we saw a lot of great things from week 1 that has carried over each and every week. So I think that, when you're a fan of these other teams in the MEAC, you want to pick on little bro. They ain't play nobody, That is just a bias that was trying to shield them from the fact that this team is for real. This team has showed up. It's not just a 2-man race with North Carolina Central and South Carolina State for these next couple of years. Go throw Delaware State in there. It's not just a team to be forgotten about anymore.
Symone, maybe all coaches should wear polos to media day. What do you think?
Okay, because Coach Jackson was getting a lot of hate for that polo. Also, another thing Coach Jackson has been saying this entire era is all the advice he's been getting, talking to Andy Reid, going to Eagles practices throughout this football season. Like, there's been times during the football season where he's been hanging out at the Eagles practices, Philadelphia Eagles practices. He's been getting mentored by Coach Nick Sirianni, a Super Bowl winning coach, Coach Andy Reid, a Super Bowl winning coach. Like, people wanted to question whether Coach Jackson was serious about this or not, but I think he's been showing since he's been hired that this is legitimately what he's trying to do.
All right, I want to pick back up on this and talk more about the MEAC, but we got big news out of the SWAC from last weekend as well. The big game in Vegas. It was a back-and-forth affair. Jackson State and Grambling. Grambling comes out on top, 26-24. Look, I was leading the way saying Jackson State had the East wrapped up after the win over Alabama State, but now it's still a 3-team race with Bethune-Cookman in the mix. Good Lord. Wilton, the wackiness is not in the West. The wackiness is in the East. What happened to Jackson State last weekend?
Before I get into it, doesn't that sound crazy, Tolly? Like, to even think that we're still talking about wackiness. First of all, wackiness, period, in the East. But I think that you saw a Jackson State team that when I went to the press conference yesterday with Coach Taylor, he talked about the fact that this team didn't necessarily play their very best starting off. Of course, they still played enough to potentially win. But I think more so than anything, when you saw Jacoby and Morgan go down, their starting quarterback, I think that changed the whole trajectory of the game. You could easily tell that, and he talked about this, that even though, Jacobian went down in the game, it has to be the next man up mentality. And again, the beauty of this is that Jack State has been in this particular situation before in previous years, except Jacobian Morgan was on the other side of that, being the quarterback coming in to make plays and facilitate Jackson State to victories moving forward. But I think that once Jacobian went down, and then, of course, you had to decide, okay, your Coach Taylor, do I put in Parker Stofa or do I put in Jared Lockhart? And we saw Parker Stofa. Both of them are freshman quarterbacks. And as a person who has seen them practice, both of them can absolutely rip the ball downfield, can get it to their receivers and things of that nature. But I think that you saw a Parker Stoffel who didn't necessarily play bad, but to Coach Taylor's words that he used in the press conference, they just needed a spark. And I think Jared Lockhart, who pretty much all of us have seen, if you go back and look at the tape from the Tuskegee game, he absolutely put on a show against Tuskegee. So we knew that he could throw the ball. So I think that you could, some would argue to say, maybe if you would have put in Jared Lockhart right after Morgan went down, Jackson State potentially wins this game. But you also have to credit this. Grambling State came out and ready to play. This was a team that definitely showed that they weren't scared of Jackson State at all. Their rushing attack was strong. Their very first play of the game, or one of their first plays of the game, was a long run, which is something that typically Jackson State doesn't give up, against opposing teams like that, especially not this season. Only a couple teams have been able to really, really run the ball on Jackson State. So I think you saw a team that was ready to play in Grambling, and I think that you saw a lot of the emotion after Jacoby and Morgan went out, that you saw a team that was trying to essentially keep things together, reestablish with a freshman quarterback, and they just didn't necessarily have enough in the tank. Almost won the game, of course, but there were a couple plays specifically on defense that Jackson State gave up that they typically don't, that allowed for, of course, the game-winning field goal on Grambling's behalf.
All right, Symone. So as we sit here, as I look at my big newspaper-style cheat sheet, 3 teams. Look how big it is. 3 teams, 3-1 in the SWAC East: Jackson State, Alabama State, and Bethune-Cookman. Jackson State owns the tiebreaker over Alabama State, but they have yet to play Bethune-Cookman. Symone, do you still feel like Jackson State will go on to win this division, or do you now feel like it's anyone's race amongst those top 3? And FAMU says, don't count us out. We've won 2 in a row, and we're sitting at 2-1. They haven't played 4 games because of that fiasco in Mississippi Valley State and the Georgia Classic that didn't happen. So we won't fully count the Rattlers out. Even that sounds crazy after Halloween. What do you think about the SWAC East right now?
Yes, Halloween week is getting spooky. But I will say, Jackson State, I feel like Jackson State is still very much in the driver's seat. I honestly think a loss like that can kind of recalibrate the team to just honestly dominate for the rest of the season. When you've been winning so long, when like Jackson State, when you are as talented as Jackson State is, sometimes you can lax, you know what I mean? You're playing a lesser opponent, which Grambling State was coming into this game. You're favorited in this game again. You've been favorited for a while. Sometimes you can relax a little bit. But I think taking a loss like that can wake the team up like, okay, you know what? Now we got to lay the hammer on everybody for the rest of the season. If we can't ease up, it got a little tighter in the SWAC East. I think a loss like that can actually refuel a team like Jackson State going forward. So if I was a betting woman out in Vegas last week, I would still put my money on Jackson State going forward.
All right, Wilton, we have 4 games left in the regular season in the SWAC. I'm going to read you Jackson State's schedule. They got FAMU this weekend. Now looks a whole lot more sexy than it did a week ago. You got Mississippi Valley State after that. You got Jackson State, Bethune-Cookman on November 15th. And then, of course, they close the regular season with Alcorn State. When you take a look at that and then you look at the other schedules, or really, if you look at Bethune-Cookman, I'm missing a sheet here. I just realized that.
You got all that paperwork.
I got all that, and I'm missing a sheet. I went to FedEx.
Don't even know what you're talking about.
It cost me about $20 to print all this off, and I left one. But Bethune-Cookman and Jackson State still have to play. And Bethune-Cookman is technically still in the mix. Where do you feel about, we talked about Jackson State, where do you feel about the chances of Alabama State and even Bethune-Cookman?
In terms of still being in the mix, they're very much alive. I still give the edge to Jackson State still getting a shot or getting a berth into the SWAC championship when the season ends and it's the first weekend in December. But if you're both of those teams, Alabama State and Bethune-Cookman, you absolutely want to continue to win every single game that you have on the schedule. If you're Alabama State, you talk about an Alabama State team. I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch that game, but it really wasn't much of a game. The Magic City Classic was the Andrew Body show, and he absolutely dominated. So if I'm Alabama State, I want to continue to put on showcases like that. I still want to be able to find ways to showcase my offense, my defense, my special teams, and continue winning, because what if Jackson State slips up in a game? What if they do lose to FAMU at Bragg this weekend. You know, if you're Bethune-Cookman, no one's expecting you to really be in the mix. I guarantee you, all three of us in the beginning of the season, we wouldn't necessarily say that Bethune-Cookman was going to be a terrible team, but going into week 10, we didn't necessarily think that Bethune-Cookman probably would be in the mix to still be somewhat alive and potentially playing for a chance to compete in the SWAC championship. But that's very much the case right now after this loss. So it's just a matter of if Jackson State continues to, of course, they still hold the tiebreaker, which you mentioned, but as long as these teams continue to win, and if Jackson State just somehow finds a way to stumble in some other games, this is very much alive. These are two teams that are very much alive, still in contention for competing for a SWAC championship. But I do think that Jackson State, throughout the rest of their schedule, while they will see other challenges from these teams left on their schedule, I think they're still going to be the team to represent the SWAC East in the SWAC championship in December.
So it looks like Jackson State has I'm going to call it 1 3/4 tough games remaining. I'm going to call FAMU 3/4 of a tough game. Valley, Alcorn State, I don't think Jackson will have a problem.
Like a chicken leg order.
And right now it looks like
what size you get, Charlie?
1 3/4. And I'm going to say Bethune-Cookman's going to be tough. Jackson State and Prairie View control their own destiny. They're the only two teams that control their own destiny because they own tiebreakers over the teams behind them or potentially have the power to own that tiebreaker. Alabama State, Prairie View this weekend, Wilton. That's elimination game for Alabama State. If you want to keep your hopes alive of a berth in the SWAC championship game, they've got to beat Prairie View. That's going to be one heck of a matchup.
Oh, absolutely. I think this game, to me, it matters for both teams. It is a separation game, but I think for me, what I'm looking at is like, okay, I'm looking at more of a situation of like, what does this game really do for Prairie View? More so meaning like, will they have enough offense to compete with Alabama State's high-powered offense? Because what I'm thinking is, we know their defense is strong. Do I think Andrew Body's going to have 5+ touchdowns against Prairie View this week? I absolutely don't. But I do expect him to have a strong game. I'm also wondering, will Alabama State's defense be able to slow down Prairie View's rushing attack? So in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, this is the game that we're really going to see if Prairie View is able to truly put up enough points to contain Andrew Body in that offense. Because if they don't contain Andrew Body, at least to some degree, and they're still able to score consistent points. Now, granted, I don't think Alabama State is going to score 50, but if they scored anywhere between 30 to 35, maybe even 40, I'll say 35. I'm a little worried for Prairie View because I'm not really sure if they're going to be able to score that many points to keep up with Alabama State.
And if Prairie View were to lose, Texas Southern is back in play. I'm looking at Grambling State. They're not completely out of it. They would become more interesting with just 2 SWAC losses. Symone, how do you feel? Do you feel Jackson State, Prairie View still your 2 teams that will be standing tall at the end of the year, or do you think these other teams actually have a real decent shot here?
I'm still rolling with the favorites right now. I think this week will tell a lot when it comes to seeing specifically how Jackson State responds after taking that loss. And like I said, I do think Jackson State is going to come out blazing, you know what I mean, after the loss last week. So I think this week would kind of tell all.
All right. Prairie View, Alabama State is going to be an interesting game. FAMU, Jackson State is going to be one to watch in the SWAC as well. All right, let's jump back over to the MEAC. Yeah, go ahead.
The Alabama State Prairie View wouldn't affect Prairie View if they lost, right?
Well, they are 4-0 in the conference right now, so they would be 4-1. They would still own the tiebreaker over Texas Southern, but they wouldn't own the tiebreaker and be a game ahead. So
okay.
It would make them even with just the tiebreaker. So it would take away one of their 2 advantages if Texas Southern were to win and Prairie View were to lose. So things will remain interesting in the SWAC. No need to tune out, as maybe we were kind of alluding to last week. All right, let's jump back over to the MEAC. South Carolina State. Whew, put it on Norfolk State at their homecoming. All the excitement
about Delaware like that.
all the excitement is around Delaware State when it comes to headlines. We led our show with it. But Chennis Berry and the crew took care of business in week one. That's the goal, to go 1-0 every week. South Carolina State, Delaware State right now are the two teams in that 6-team MEAC race that I would say people are leaning into. What do you feel about South Carolina State, Symone, after you saw the Bulldogs?
Yeah, they're barking. They're looking like the South Carolina State team we expected them to look like this year. They're looking like the most dominant team to me in the MEAC. We did our power rankings last week where we had, what did we have, Wilton? South Carolina, North Carolina, and then Delaware State, right?
We had North Carolina,
South
Delaware
Carolina.
State. Yeah.
Then Delaware.
Then Delaware State. Yep.
Yeah, but the Bulldogs, they're looking like the most dominant team right now in the MEAC. It will be interesting, obviously, when we get to that game where we get Delaware State versus South Carolina State. But, shoot, they're looking scary right now.
Wilton, Chennis Berry is just all about business. He doesn't need the headlines. He doesn't need the hype. He doesn't need the national exposure. He's not against it, but he and his guys, they just do the dirty work, Wilton.
They do. They go out and they handle business. And that's exactly what they needed to do to start MEAC play. I mean, this is a South Carolina State team. We talked about it last week to a degree on the show. We knew where this team was, but of course they've had some interesting games in non-conference play, and you could see that this wasn't exactly the same team that they were last year, in terms of like players and things of that nature. But we see that, starting MEAC play against a Norfolk State team that we already knew or at least expected them to beat. Not only did they beat them, but they set a statement in beating them the way that they did. And I think that more so than anything, too, you're starting to see a little bit more continuity on offense and really just this team coming together, because I feel like in watching them play in non-conference play, there were moments where there was still some disconnection between them, specifically more so on both sides of the ball, but really on offense. And you've seen in terms of quarterback play with Ryan Stubblefield, but then now more so with William Atkins, the fourth, getting more playing time. I mean, in this game alone against Norfolk State, he threw for 4 touchdowns. And Jordan Smith was a key player in terms of, catching 2 of those. So I think that the more that you see them kind of gel and get continuity, and to your point, Tyler, with a coach like Chennis Berry, I can assure you that probably coming into this game against Norfolk State, he told them no matter what they've done previously in non-conference play, this is one of the most important games, because this is the start of determining your fate of whether or not, A, you want to win a MEAC championship, but then 2, do you want to get back to Atlanta for a Celebration Bowl?
And also, shout out to Howard. They are the third 1-0 team in the MEAC. They defeated Morgan State. It went to overtime. Exciting game. Probably didn't capture all the headlines that it maybe would have if the Delaware State North Carolina Central game wasn't such a big game. But Howard did defeat Morgan State in overtime, 33-27. So they are in the mix as well. Symone, where are you right now? What city are you in right now?
I'm in Philadelphia.
And what are you getting ready for?
We're getting ready for the big game. Thursday is Delaware State, is Norfolk State. Obviously, y'all know my heart is split in 2. Half my heart is green and half my heart is blue and red. So this is going to be hard for me. On Thursday, I was hoping the season would have been going a little bit differently. Extremely happy for Coach Jackson, but I was hoping, we get a little more out of Norfolk. You know what I mean? I'm just hoping for a great game. Yeah.
What are you? So this game is going to be played in Philadelphia at the Linc, where the Eagles play their game, and of course, there's a connection between Michael Vick, DeShawn Jackson, Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, we know that. What type of vibe? What type of crowd? What kind of turnout? What are you anticipating for Thursday night?
I think it's going to be lit, okay, because there's a lot of festivities that are happening around the game. They're having a step show before the game, not inside the game, but it's for people with tickets. So like on the plaza, they're going to have a step show. They're going to have a battle of the bands on the plaza as well. I'm pretty sure it's high school bands. a step show on the plaza. There's a lot of fanfare that they're going to be having before the game. I already know during the game, already just like who's going to be at this game, okay? Because I know the support that Coach Vick and Coach Jackson are going to have is going to be crazy. So I just already know like the sidelines, it's going to be lined up with the who's who, okay? So I'm excited to see who's going to be at the game. I'm expecting a great environment. They sold tickets pretty much just to the lower bowl for the game. So everybody's going to be kind of together. It's going to be thick. Fans packed in there together. It should be a good time. Now, there is a tsunami coming through, okay?
A tsunami?
So, yeah. Right now, we're expecting 1 inch of rain on Thursday, okay?
A hurricane
So,
or
I was being dramatic when I said
I
tsunami.
was about to say,
I think
are
we're
we
getting.
predicting tsunamis now?
I think it is a hurricane somewhere. You know, like sometimes you get like the little remnants.
The bands,
up?
yeah. There's
But that's
Hurricane
not
Melissa
coming
right
from-
now, but I don't think it'll be there by Thursday. If it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not doing weather here. I'm just talking.
That's what I was about to say. That did not come from a confirmed weather source. So all I know is
Rain
supposed to be about 1 inch
expected
of rain.
on Thursday.
So we're gonna see. We're gonna see how that affects things. But I'm gonna be working my powers and holding the rain off, shifting the clouds.
Okay, 11. I see you. Is there going to be a excitement among just casual well, how can I say it? People that are Eagles fans, people that are invested in, the lore of athletes from Philadelphia that might not be HBCU fans. Will there be that level of draw at all at the game on Thursday?
I think there might be a bigger level from the Eagles fan base than honestly the HBCU fan base. When they were announced as coaches, Coach Vick and Coach Jackson, there were so many people in my comments, Eagles fans, asking me if I was going to the game, asking when the game was. This was months ago. And I just heard so much buzz, excitement when it comes to the Eagles fan base on social media. Like Michael Vick and DeShawn Jackson, those are two legends. So to have this game played at the Linc, it was perfect. It's huge. People just want to support Coach Jackson. People just want to support Coach Vick at the end of the day in the city. So I think it's going to be big.
All right. So, and you are going to have a big presence at the game. Tell us what you're going to be doing at the game.
So we're going to be tailgating on Thursday. So this will be my first time tailgating with my RV. Okay, so this is a test tailgate for me. If you out on the RV, RVing, moving and maneuvering, it could be a lot of work sometimes. So I think this is a good starter tailgate. You know what I mean? It's a huge field, huge parking lot access. So this will be our first tailgate. So I'm excited to be tailgating. Me and Kobe, shout out to Kobe Vision, will be at the game getting some content. I'm going to be interviewing some fans before the game, getting their vibe on like the season, how things has changed with Coach Vick and Coach Jackson. So definitely getting a pulse from the fans, definitely going to give some vibes, some sideline energy. Y'all already know if you have had a Symone with the sports game day experience before, y'all know I'm going to get y'all all the tea. All
right, so can people pull up? Can they get a hot dog with you? Can they get a cheese steak with you? Like, what's the rules here? What are the rules to Symone's RV and pulling up?
Anybody can pull up to my tailgate. Now, what we're going to be serving, that's the question. So basically, Thursday morning, I'm going to let y'all know where I'm at. Okay, so you can come by my tailgate.
And you should let them know what to bring. When you have a party, you gotta
anything
tell
you
people.
want, you got to bring. I'm working on my menu right now, and it's a little dicey. I'm going to just say that.
So don't come by Symone's tailgate thinking you're
Don't
gonna
think
get.
you about to be getting a heavy plate loaded down with
So basically, don't expect no. What Tyler say? A quarter of a piece of chicken, a burger, a hot dog, none of that.
Don't expect none of that.
All flats. All
All
flats.
flats. Yeah, we're gonna see. We gonna see. We're gonna have a good little time. And we can collab now on YouTube. So we gonna do some collab posts with HBCU Gameday.
All right. So bottled water, the short ones, and some flats. Symone, who's on your team? Who's on your tailgate team? I know you roll deep. Who's on your team?
So my parents, my sister's boyfriend, who is a grill master.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. He's got to have some budget, though. He's got to have some budget.
And then also, people who say they gonna pull up. We'll see if y'all actually pull up. Pull up.
Now, Symone, I feel like you could get some, some heavy hitting names at your tailgate due to your connections with the Eagles.
We'll see. I like to keep tricks up my sleeve. You know what I'm saying? You gotta surprise some folks. And also folks be flaky. So, if it's not confirmed, I don't like to say it.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like people should tune in to the YouTube collab with Symone with the sports, Kobe Vision, our guy up north, and HBCU Gameday, and see how see if your tailgate is popping or if it falls flat.
I already told my dad, I was like, we gotta be lit. I told people we gonna be lit. So trust me, I'm putting the pressure on that man.
And your dad is Mr. Person. Your dad will keep the crowd moving.
I know. I already told him you gotta be shucking and jiving. We need the full blasted speakers. Trust me, I've been calling him every couple of hours, letting him know the pressure.
All right, so there's the game before the game. The game before the game. We're not talking zero quarter. We're talking Symone's tailgate and whether or not it's going to be popping. Streets will let us know, Symone. You know that.
Oh, they're gonna let us know in the comments too.
The streets will let us know. All right, Wilton, I can give you a ticket to any game this weekend. Let's look down the schedule. You got Valley at Bethune-Cookman, Southern at UAPB, Alcorn State at Texas Southern, A&M at Grambling, Alabama State at Prairie View, Jackson State at FAMU. Let's see what we got cooking over in the MEAC. We got Norfolk State, Delaware State on Thursday, Morgan State at South Carolina State on Saturday, Central at Howard on Saturday. But you only get one ticket, Wilton. One ticket on the TC Express. Everything paid for. One game. Which game is it going to be for you this weekend?
Absolutely, Alabama State and Prairie View. Of course, everybody has this notion of seeing what Jackson State's going to do in terms of rebounding, what FAMU is going to do in terms of, going up against Jackson State. Obviously, Thursday with Norfolk State and Delaware State, that's going to be one I'm going to have my eye on. But for sure, in terms of the game itself, X's and O's wise, I have to see this Alabama State and Prairie View game because I really want to know if Prairie View is going to be able to do enough offensively to hang and go back and forth with Alabama State. Again, I don't expect them to. I don't expect Alabama State to again drop 50 on Prairie View, but at the same time, I know that they're going to be able to score, and I need to see how they will respond going up against Andrew Body because again, we saw what Andrew Body did against Jackson State, one of the premier teams in the SWAC, obviously the HBCU national champs. I got to be able to see how Prairie View responds against a top tier quality team like Alabama State from the SWAC East.
All right. Well, we know where Symone's going to be. We're not even going to throw that out there as an option. But your game is a Thursday game, Symone. So I'll say on Saturday. Which game are you going to be watching the most on Saturday?
First of all, I picked up that shade from Wilton talking about some X's and O's wise. This the game I want to be.
Now, no, for real. But if I needed to go for like the tailgate, like you just made me excited to want to go to Philadelphia for real. Because again, like Tyler said, you really don't know who might pull up at your tailgate. And to Tyler's point, I'm actually expecting some people to pull up at your tailgate. So I'm gonna have to tune in and watch.
Okay, well. Well, it said bump all of that. Let's get to the game. Saturday, if I had a ticket, I would be at FAM Jackson State. I would want to see how Jackson State responds. I also feel like FAMU is feeling like, hold on, wait a minute. Y'all thought I was finished? You know what I mean? We got a chance out here. So, you know, FAM might bite down on their mouthpiece a little harder this week. So I think that'll be a very interesting matchup. It's going to mean a lot in the SWAC East if FAMU pulls off that upset. Or is Jackson State going to shut the door on them? We're going to see.
Yeah, if you're a fan of good storylines and just absolute chaos, man, FAMU could really just turn the whole division upside down. I think Jackson State, obviously, not I think, I know Jackson State doesn't want that to happen, but just for the casual fan at home that just wants to see craziness, that would be the one game that could really, really make things crazy. Before we go, I've been wanting to say this for weeks. Wilton, does Symone, is she giving the principal from Abbott Elementary? Did you get that vibe?
Wow.
Who is the principal from Abbott
Do you
Elementary?
get that? Do you get that, Wilton?
Yes, I do. I thought about it like a couple times, but then I was like, I don't know how Symone's gonna take that. But today, absolutely, like for sure, definitely giving those vibes.
Is it because I run stuff?
No, do you watch Abbott Elementary, Symone?
No.
Okay.
You gotta
just
watch.
Watch one episode.
Literally.
Watch the principal on that show and then report back to us, okay?
Yes.
Oh, y'all better not piss me off either, because y'all know I'm gonna go right and Google that.
No, it's a totally good thing. She's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's twofold. It's twofold. It's the hair. It's the hair that kind of gives you
they gonna let me know in the comments.
that gives you the resemblance, and then it's the personality, because you both are off the chain in different ways, but both off the chain for sure.
Y'all let me know in the comments if I need to fight somebody.
It's not shade at all.
It's not.
We promise you, it's not shade. And the fact that Wilton and I were both thinking it, but we just never said it, I think that solidifies it all.
Okay.
Symone, you won't have to fight us, I promise.
No.
No.
All right, it's the show that we think is called HBCU Game Day. It's week 10. Check in with us on YouTube on Thursday. We're going to collab with Symone, and it's going to be do or die. It's going to be do or die at that tailgate. We're going to see what's going on, so make sure that you are subscribed and locked in.
If there's no footage, that y'all already know what that means.
Either way, we're going to talk about that tailgate next week before we get into any games at all. All right, from Philadelphia, from Jackson, Mississippi, from Atlanta, I am TC. This is the HBCU Game Day crew. We'll talk to you later.